When I first sat down to think about the project, my first sort of emotion was just like this excitement, because on one hand I was like a little bit surprised that I hadn't come across her story yet, but at the same time I was really excited about the narrative and to be able to like breathe new life into that narrative, because I think it's a story that like everyone needs to know about. A lot of times when I walk into, a gallery or an art institution, I feel like the art that I'm looking at is sort of removed. It's not really speaking to me. I feel like it's not speaking to my community. I want to put elements into my work that I feel like could speak directly to a young Black student at a Toronto high school or something like that. I want people to be able to look at this and see, hey, there's a piece of me that I recognize very clearly in this. I draw from everything. I draw from fashion, I draw from music, I draw from sports, I draw from comic books and science fiction. Everything that I find inspiring, everything that's important to me, that's where I look for those elements to inject into the work. Basically, the aesthetic is just about sacred adornment, sort of pulling from these cultural gems, like these cultural treasures, this sort of reverence for different cultures and the history that's been willfully and systemically, sort of oppressed. It's really on us to dig it up and give it the reverence that it truly deserves. When it came to this project, it was just kind of like, putting Marianne Shad as the new focus for, what I'm learning about. With her piece, for instance, like the flowers represent the two states that she sort of had a huge impact in her life, that being Delaware and Pennsylvania. And then you also see the trilliums on the chain, which represent Ontario, which was also, a base for her and where she obviously ran the newspaper. That floral motif, I felt like sort of spoke to the her geographical connections. There's, I'm gonna pull the piece up real quick. So that's the piece right there. A couple other elements that I used were the Adinkra symbols on her earrings, like the wisdom knot, which speaks to education, the one on her left ear, which is sort of a symbol for independence and freedom. So like those are themes that I really wanted to pull into the work. There is also a number of symbols sort of on her mantle with purple, white, and gold colors. Those symbols are quilt patches that were really symbols of like the Underground Railroad. So those symbols would be woven into quilts to sort of communicate to escaping enslaved people as sort of like a secret message that would deliver different information and kind of like guide their journey to the north. The colors that I chose for that, the purple, white, and gold, are colors of the women's suffrage movement that is part of her story as well. So I wanted to just have an element in there that spoke to that. You'll see the little asterisks hanging at the very bottom. Part of her story with the newspaper is that she couldn't publish under her own name because it still wasn't accepted for women to be in that position at that time, let alone a Black woman. The articles that she wrote, she would just denote with an asterisk so that like it was kind of like, if you know, you know. And right in the middle, you'll see like the eagle pendant. So that the eagle is just sort of a very popular symbol that was on a lot of conscription posters or recruitment posters in the time of the Civil War for the Union Army recruiting. And then right in the middle of that is like the Juneteenth star. So that's a very modern symbol. It wasn't even created until this century. But I think what it speaks to is a movement that would have been very important to her in her time. And then, yeah, and the lion and the unicorn, obviously the crest of the British Empire, but was featured at the top of her newspaper. It was still a connection to Ontario at the time, Canada at the time. Even though it is a colonial symbol, it's a symbol that she felt had a place on her paper. So I just wanted to acknowledge that from the Provincial Freeman. Lastly, the North Star right in the center of her forehead, the North Star just being a symbol of freedom, one of the main icons of the enslavement era, where any people trying to get away, any people trying to escape, that was kind of their guiding icon that that would inform or guide their journey, hopefully to a free life. I think Awakenings is a very fitting title for these times, specifically speaking to Marianne Shadd's story. Awakening to your own power, your own sense of purpose, and your own sense of ability in this moment. There are so many things happening in this world right now that are overwhelming and anxiety-inducing, but at the same time, I just look at her story and her life's work, and I just draw so much inspiration off of that. I feel like for a Black woman living in Canada and the United States in the middle of the 1800s, with all of the things, like literally mobs of people looking for free Black people to, to bring them back to the South, and even the people that are supposed to be your allies are like, no, you can't run a newspaper because you're a woman. Like, all of the adversity that she faced is probably more more adversity than I or most other people are facing in 2021. If she could find that sense of strength and inner purpose, I think we can do it in 2021 as well.